At this time, we ask that you please silence your cell phone, and also we will allow time for picture taking during the ceremony. Thank you.
Another turning point, a fork stuck in the road. Time grabs you by the wrist, directs you where to go. So make the best of this test and don't ask why. It's not a question, but a lesson learned in time. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. So take the photographs and still frames in your mind, hanging on a shelf in good health and good time. Tattoos of memories and dead skin on trial. For what it's worth, it was worth all the while. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. It's something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life. It's something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life.
Please rise for the posting of the colors and the singing of the national anthem by Mr. Joseph Donato and the seating of the official party.
Was so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that that star-spangled banner yet wave, o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Thank you.
Please remain standing for the invocation, which will be given by Brother Andrew.
As we gather this afternoon for the ceremony, recognizing and welcoming these new officers, let us take a moment to recognize and thank God for our lives and all the blessings we have received. Loving Father, bless these young men and women today as they officially enter into the service of their country. Give them strength and intelligence, and make of them true peacemakers in the world. Bless their families and all those who are close to them. We also ask your blessings and protection on those currently serving their country, putting their lives on the line, perhaps far from their country and family, and especially for those in harm's way. Heavenly Father, we ask this in all things with confidence, trusting that you hear and answer us always. Amen.
Please take your seats. On behalf of Lieutenant Colonel Diaz, our Professor of Military Science, and Master Sergeant Rodriguez, our Senior Military Science Instructor, and the entire Department of Military Science, we would like to welcome the parents, relatives, and friends of those who will become second lieutenants this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, our Professor of Military Science, Lieutenant Colonel Ed Diaz.
Good afternoon, Dr. Lute, Brigadier General Maddox, other distinguished guests, colleagues, cadets, and most importantly, soon-to-be second lieutenants, parents, and family members. Welcome to the Seton Hall University Army ROTC Class of 2012 Commissioning Ceremony. Before I introduce this afternoon's guest speakers, I'd like to take a moment and say a few words to the commissionees and their families. To the commissionees, congratulations. Your hard work, dedication, and determination have paid off. Today we bear witness to the fruits of your labor. It's not something to be taken lightly, and it's not an endeavor meant for everyone. I'm 100% confident that you're prepared to take the next step. It has been an honor to have you as my first commissioning class, and I truly appreciate the warm welcome you've provided. It's been a great year. To parents and families, you should feel proud, and I know you do. I'm very sensitive to the fact that you've entrusted my cadre and I with your most precious of treasures. It's a duty that we take very seriously, and know that they have overcome much adversity put in their way. They've matured into responsible young men and women who are ready to take on the challenges of being an officer in the Army of the United States. It's now their turn to accept the burden of leadership, of leading this nation's finest men and women in whatever endeavor the future may hold. Be confident that they have the tools to do so. Okay, now on to the business of introducing our guest speakers. We're fortunate today that we have two guest speakers. Don't ask how this happened, but know that we are extremely happy with the way things have turned out. Our first guest speaker is a commanding general of Picatinny Arsenal right here in New Jersey. If you ask him, he'll humbly tell you that he's a product of the public school system and would insist on minimal or maybe even zero pomp and circumstance on his behalf. His bio, though, speaks for itself and clearly lays out the depth and breadth of the experience that he brings to the table. Sir, it's an honor to have you here today and to have you speak in front of us. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Brigadier General Jonathan A. Maddox.
Dr. Lute, ladies and gentlemen, cadre, faculty, administrators, rising lieutenants, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to have this opportunity to speak to you today and join you, the parents, family members, friends, cadre, administrators, and faculty members, to congratulate and move these rising lieutenants into second lieutenants in the United States Army. Congratulations to you in the audience who have molded and shaped these soon-to-be officers. For more than 236 years, proud New Jerseyans have bravely answered America's call to arms and defended our nation. In just a few minutes, we'll commission 10 more who will join the Garden State's Patriots. Less than 1% of our population wears the military uniform, so be proud of your accomplishments and what's going to happen here today. Over the last several years, an outstanding group of officers, NCOs, and faculty members have taught you leadership, basic military skills, professional ethics, and the Army's values. These values are the foundation blocks of our Army. Seton Hall's values closely mirrors the Army's values. Both institutions are interested in developing leaders who are strong in mind, heart, and spirit. You've learned the Army values: to be loyal, to fulfill your obligations, to respect others, to serve others and not oneself, to be honorable in all you say and do, to do the right things morally and legally, and to face fear, danger, and adversity with courage. Following your commissioning here and graduation today, you'll depart for your new assignments. While you move on, you take with you special bonds that you developed over the last 4 years here at Seton Hall and other universities. So look to your right and look to your left, and know that these friends are lifetime friends that will be with you on your right and left, your brothers and sisters in arms in the futures. You'll probably run into them in the days ahead. I speak from personal experience. As in 1975, I'm a Michigander by trade, by the way, not in New Jersey, native, but I'm an immigrant. I've been stationed here 3 times and own a house down in Lenoka Harbor, as well as living in Picatinny. But I was in high school in 1975, and I know that's well before you were born. Graduated from high school then and went into the Army, enlisted with 2 brothers in the 82nd Airborne. We served together there for 3 years, got out, went to Eastern Michigan University, and then was commissioned. We were commissioned in 1982, and we joined each other in units over the last 25 years in the Army. We all made colonel. The other 2 retired, but I'm still hanging in there. So I can speak from personal experience that these are still lifelong friends of mine. And in the Army, the brotherhood of arms, you will trust and rely on each other to degrees you have never imagined before. So I know firsthand how you'll bond with your friends and move forward there. As you begin your careers as second lieutenants, it's a very special time in our nation. You will defend and define our nation and our Army as you move forward. And it's certainly a time of change. Our military is currently transitioning and adjusting to the drawdown in Iraq and the drawdown that's happening in Afghanistan. And on top of that, we're in certainly a new era of austerity from a financial perspective. So while our forces are swift and have a global presence, all of you who wear this military uniform speak to a common goal and are part of an all-volunteer joint interagency force. While we may be few in number, we're certainly the best the world has ever seen. I'm sure you've given some thought to what's going to follow your commissioning and graduation today. Perhaps you've even experienced some anxiety of what lies ahead. Those thoughts are certainly normal. Don't worry, I can assure you that your military and academic training here have prepared you for the future. And by no means are you expected to know everything. In fact, your NCOs and officers that you encounter during your first couple days, weeks, and months in your unit won't hesitate to remind you how little you may know, in fact, and everything about the Army, from leadership to everything in between. So make sure you listen to them. They have a wealth of experience, and they all want to help you succeed as an officer. In closing, I ask you to remember 3 simple things that are very important to me. Lead by example, listen to your NCOs, and take care of your soldiers, our soldiers, and our soldiers' families. By leading by example, you should try to be a model soldier who others will look up to, peers, subordinate, and superiors alike. That means keeping a positive attitude at all times and staying physically fit. I know if you've met NCOs over your last 4 years here, you may not realize just how important they are to you and to your future. Your platoon sergeants are gold mines out there, all the sergeants in your platoon and around you. Always find time to listen to them and make sure you take their advice into consideration before you make decisions or take any action, time allowing. Last but not least, take care of your and our soldiers and their families. You'll probably spend a great deal of time as a junior officer dealing with problems with soldiers and their families. Cliche is we spend 90% of our time on 10% of our soldiers, and many times that bears fruit. Try to develop the necessary listening skills. Make every effort to learn what you can about each and every soldier at a personal level. Helping soldiers and their families is a huge part of being a good leader. So again, three simple things. Lead by example, listen to your NCOs, and take care of the sons and daughters of America, our soldiers and their families. So when I see the caliber of great men and women to my left, I take assurance knowing that our Army is in good hands and our nation will move forward and be defended well. So congratulations on this special day. Best of luck to your future. God bless America.
Once again, sir, thanks for those words. Okay, our next speaker has a direct connection to our program. Not only is she the second highest ranking person in the Department of Homeland Security, but for us today, more importantly, she's a product of Seton Hall Army ROTC. Her bio describes the level of experience and achievement attained by only a small percentage of the population. We stand here today honored to share a ceremony that marked the beginning of her career as well. It's with great pleasure that I present to you Dr. Jane Hall-Lute, the Deputy Secretary for Homeland Security. Ma'am, thank you. It was a long drive.
Thank you. When my office told me that the program here at Seton Hall was interested if I would come up and speak, I was surprised, in part because I went through this program and I was amazed anyone would want me to come back again. But General Maddox, Colonel Diaz, ladies and gentlemen, and rising second lieutenants. This morning when I woke up, was like a normal day in Washington, D.C. Homeland Security is the third largest department in the federal government. The largest is the Department of Defense. Penny for anybody who knows who's number 2. And I'm the second senior most official. 36 years ago, on a morning in May, I woke up. I was a sophomore at Montclair State College. It was Montclair State College in those days. I was walking across campus and I saw a newspaper that said, last chance for a 19-year-old sophomore to become a 21-year-old lieutenant. I barely got past the words that said, last chance. I thought to myself, well, that's interesting. I had to go over to Seton Hall University, and I was talking to a friend of mine. They said, do you know where Seton Hall is? I said, well, my parents live on Fairview Avenue. I think I can find it. I was born in Newark. I spent the first 5 years of my life there, and we moved a half a block away from here, on Fairview Avenue. I'm in the middle of 7 kids. My father, like all my friends, had been in the service during World War II. He was a pilot in the Navy. And that day in May in 1976, I came over here to Seton Hall. I found the barracks where the ROTC program was, and the Pershing rifles. Do you still have Pershing rifles? Working on it. The Pershing rifles were walking out the door, and the captain who was there that said, look, we're past the deadline for summer ROTC camp. Do you want to go or not? I said yes. And in an instant, my life was changed. I walked back over. I thought I can't be over here at Seton Hall and not step in and see my mother and father, God rest their soul. I said, where are you working this summer, Janie? I said, you know, I'm going to go to basic training in Fort Knox, Kentucky. I joined the Army. But it was not the news they were expecting. My father said to me, God rest his soul, my father is the kindest person I've ever known. My father said to me, Janie, don't do it. You can type, you'll always find work. It's true. I've never forgotten that, by the way. I've never been afraid of being out of work because I can type. So what happened when I woke up that day in May, 36 years ago, and when I woke up this morning? And a long, extraordinary journey that I would have never predicted, ever at all in my life. I was commissioned in the Signal Corps, and I was sent to an infantry brigade as my first assignment. Let me tell you something, in 1978, the signal officer is never the favorite person in the infantry brigade, A. And nobody was too thrilled that a young female signal officer was showing up to be the brigade signal officer, which I was. But people were extraordinarily kind and influential in the course of my life. General Maddox gave you such key leadership advice. I don't want you to forget a bit of it. Part of the most important piece of that advice, or the most important piece of the advice that he gave you, was to listen to your NCOs. The most valuable words you will say on any given day is, what do you think, platoon sergeant? It's really true. So I spent 4 years in an infantry brigade, and over the course of my military career, I commanded a company. The Army sent me to graduate school. I taught at West Point for a while and had the privilege of serving in the White House under 2 presidents. It was an extraordinary experience. The Army gave me a connection to meaning that only before in my family had I ever felt. So I'm going to give you some advice of my own from 36 years. Fast forward, if you can imagine it, because you're giving me the chance to walk back and look back. I think there are 3 things that I would tell you. And by the way, senior officers, their advice only comes in 3s. So it's you can always anticipate. Let me guess, sir, 3 things, right? Yeah, got it. I'm just going to tell you, right, 3 things. I'm going to talk about leadership balance and meaning. We talk about, you've heard about through the course of your ROTC career, the importance of leadership. What does it mean? Leadership is not about authority. Leadership is about responsibility. It's about taking that responsibility and making it your own, making yourself responsible for things that are happening or failing to happen, and knowing the difference and knowing what you can do about it. Hal Moore, who was the regimental commander at 17 Cav, part of We Were Soldiers Once and Young, would walk into a situation, he said, I would ask myself 3 questions. What's happening? What's not happening? And how can I affect things? Remember that advice. Leadership is about responsibility. But it's also about knowing when to be a teammate, a good follower, a good supporter. A lot of times we get the leading part right, we don't get the following part right. Remember that. Your NCO will be an important source of intelligent advice in that regard. The second thing I want to talk about is balance. People talk about balance. My life is out of balance. If your life is out of balance, put it into balance. They're not going to bury you with your inbox, but your inbox will bury you. Your inbox will bury you. And so General Maddox said, look to your right, look to your left. I used to tell people that all the time. Look to your right, look to your left. We are the help. But when you are maintaining your balance, remember who the important people are in your life and treat the important people in your life like they're important. Remember that balance. You're in charge of your own balance or not. And meaning. I talked about how the Army gave me a connection to meaning that I had only found in my family. My family is a very powerful influence in my life. People want to connect to meaning. When people walk through the door every day going to work, they are well-intentioned and hardworking and want to connect to meaning, and you will be that connection for them. So keep that advice, in addition to all the other advice that you're hearing from folks as you head out on this journey. I can tell you, 36 years later, nearly to the day, I was commissioned in 1978, went to basic training in 1976. May 25th, 1978, I was sitting in the round auditorium, if it's still here, getting my bars pinned on. And I'm going to give you 3 bits of advice. I'm going to give you 3 life-sustaining tips, and then I'm going to close. This is the brass tacks, in my view, that sort of nobody ever tells you, and it takes 36 years to learn. And it comes down to sort of reading, writing, and arithmetic. Number 1, read every day. Every single day, read something about your profession, to enlarge your mind, to increase your understanding. Read every day. Every single day. Second, always, always, always carry something to write with. Always, always, always carry something to write with. And it will pay you dividends again and again and again. When you walk into a meeting, when you're standing there with somebody, and people, you come upon an accident, have something to write with. It sounds corny, but it's true. It can be a life-saving measure. And finally, learn how to balance a checkbook. I mean, people give you other advice, learn a foreign language, that's important. Treat people with respect. Hopefully by now you know that. You're entering a career at which, at your age, people expect you to have integrity, initiative, and self-discipline. If you don't have those 3 things, you'll find that most people will not be good bosses for you because they're very hard to teach. Read every day, carry something to write with, learn how to balance a checkbook, understand your way around the budget. In addition to all of the other things you learn, have some practical things that you can contribute to any enterprise underway at any time. So it's a privilege for me to come and speak with you this morning. It's a real thrill, in fact. It's been a long time since I've been home. And I'm going to end by saying thank you, and I'm going to end by congratulating you on what you've achieved in this point in your career as you transition on to a new adventure. And I'm going to end by urging you to begin your career the way I guarantee you will end it, whether it's 36 years from now, 30 years, or 2. I want you to begin your career the way you will end it, by thanking those who have made it possible. God bless you, and thanks very much.
Thank you, Dr. Lute and General Maddox. On behalf of Seton Hall ROTC program, we would like to present to you a small token of appreciation. These plaques resemble the history of the Department of Military Science, as well as the Corps of Cadets. Ma'am, sir, thank you. Whenever any person is elected or appointed to an office under the government of the United States, they are required by law to take an oath before entering upon the duties of that office. Please rise to witness the special moment as our commissionees take their oath of office as newly appointed officers in the United States Army. The oath of office will now be administered by Lieutenant Colonel Diaz.
I, Stephen Hernandez. I, Seton. I, Dr. Brian Cable. I, Daniel Knopf. I, Mark Connell. I, Corey Murphy. I, Michael Cole.
Having been appointed an officer
Having been appointed officer
in the Army of the United States,
in the Army of the United States,
in the rank of second lieutenant,
in the rank of second lieutenant,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution
the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
both foreign
both foreign
and domestic,
and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will,
and that I will,
well and faithfully, discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office
of the office
on which
on which
I am about to enter.
I am about to enter. So help me God.
Please take your seats. We will now begin the pinning ceremony. Tradition dictates that the new commissionees will now add to their uniforms the 2 gold bars which represents their second lieutenant ranks. Each of our newly commissioned officers has selected special individuals in their lives to pin their first officer bars on their service uniforms. At this time, those individuals who are pinning, please move to the right side of the auditorium. Second Lieutenant epaulets will now be placed on Second Lieutenant Sean Eady by his father, Mr. Scott Eady, and mother, Miss Michelle Eady. Second Lieutenant Eady is commissioned as an active duty field artillery officer. Let's give a round of applause for Second Lieutenant Eady. Thank you. Second Lieutenant epaulets will now be placed on Second Lieutenant Jackson Hearn by his father, Mr. Frank Hearn, and mother, Miss Gwen Hearn. Second Lieutenant Hearn is commissioned into the Corps of Engineers in the New Jersey Army National Guard. Second Lieutenant Eplitz will now be placed on Second Lieutenant Stephen Hernandez by his wife, Ms. Norbelis Hernandez, and mother, Ms. Lillian Palau. Second Lieutenant Hernandez is commissioned as an infantry officer in the New Jersey Army National Guard. Second Lieutenant Eplitz will now be placed on Second Lieutenant Stephen Jamandron by his brothers Matt and Victor Jamandron. Second Lieutenant Jamandron is commissioned as an active duty ordnance officer. Second Lieutenant Eplitz will now be placed on Second Lieutenant Joshua Kazor by his mother, Miss Tammy Kazor, and grandmother, Dorothy Kazor. Second Lieutenant Kazor is commissioned as an infantry officer in the New Jersey Army National Guard. Second Lieutenant Eplitz will now be placed on Second Lieutenant Angela Kim by her mother, Ms. Un-hee Lee, and her sister, Julie Kim. Second Lieutenant Kim is commissioned as an active duty military intelligence officer. Second Lieutenant Eplitz will now be placed on Second Lieutenant Daniel Knox by his fiancée Jade Riley and by his parents Mr. and Mrs. Ron and Barbara Knox. Second Lieutenant Knox is commissioned as an active duty quartermaster officer. Second Lieutenant Eplitz will now be placed on Second Lieutenant Mark McConnell by his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Kevin and Deborah McConnell. Second Lieutenant McConnell is commissioned as an active duty military intelligence officer. Second Lieutenant Eplitz will now be placed on Second Lieutenant Ari Merdler by Master Sergeant Victor Rodriguez and Sergeant First Class Riley. Second Lieutenant Merdler is commissioned as an active duty Signal Corps officer. Second Lieutenant Eplitz will now be placed on Second Lieutenant Michael Toland by his parents, Mr. John Toland and Miss Kathy Toland. Second Lieutenant Toland is commissioned as an active duty infantry officer. You will now witness the Silver Dollar Salute. It is a time-honored tradition that a brand-new second lieutenant presents a silver dollar to the first non-commissioned officer who salutes him. To every new officer, it represents a symbolic receipt of respect due to the newly earned rank and position. It signifies a deep sense of gratitude from the new officer for the knowledge that non-commissioned officers and enlisted soldiers have passed on to them during training. It's an acknowledgement from one professional soldier to another that says, "Welcome to the profession of arms." Second Lieutenant Eady will receive his first salute from Sergeant First Class Riley. Second Lieutenant Hearn will receive his first salute from Master Sergeant Victor Rodriguez. Second Lieutenant Hernandez will receive his first salute from Master Sergeant Rodriguez. Second Lieutenant will receive his first salute from his father, Sergeant First Class Jamandra. Second Lieutenant Kaiser will receive his first salute from Staff Sergeant Johnson. Second Lieutenant Kim will receive her first salute from Master Sergeant Rodriguez. Second Lieutenant Knox will receive his first salute from Sergeant First Class Riley. Second Lieutenant McConnell will receive his first salute from Sergeant First Class Riley. Second Lieutenant Murdler will receive his salute from Sergeant First Class Riley. Second Lieutenant Toland will receive his first salute from Sergeant First Class Riley. Please remain standing for the Army song. Please join me one more time in the last round of applause for our Army's newest second lieutenants. This concludes our formal ceremony. Thank you all for coming, and please feel free to join us up in the atrium in the 4th floor. And please remain standing for the exiting of the official party and commissions. Thank you all for coming.